Howdy and welcome to Sunburnt Gaming. Today we're going to be doing a breakdown, review, and discussion of Onyx Path Publishing's latest RPG, Curseborne. We are welcomed today by regular of the Chronicles of Darkness community, Arcanist.
Hello, glad to have you here. Some of you may know me from moderating the Mage of the Awakening fan Discord. Others of you may know me from my work on Hungry Shadows or Goal of Wise. Otherwise, I've been around the block a bit, as it were, and I'm happy to be here.
And we're happy to have you. So we've as you said, you're being a moderator for Mage the Awakening server. We've got a decent amount of experience when it comes to of Darkness properties and storyteller stuff, and also some experience with the Story Path line of games, which is going to be very relevant given this game. So, what actually is Curseborne? It's the latest game to come out of Onyx Path that uses their Story Path Ultra system, which is a sort of descendant of the storyteller system that used to be used for World of Darkness, New World of Darkness, Chronicles of Darkness. Dice pool system where you add two stats together, try to get multiple successes. The genre of this particular game is that it's trying to be a dark urban fantasy game where there are many different monsters. There are werewolves, vampires, ghosts and ghouls and spooky places. One element that sort of differentiates, I'd say the big differentiator between a lot of the other World of Darkness games when it comes to genre, like a lot of games in that same area, is the World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness games are very focused on breaking things down into game lines. So you have Werewolf the Forsaken, Vampire the Masquerade, but Curseborne goes with a route of what if we shove those all into one book and they're all interacting and crossing over constantly. In the Chronicles of Darkness community, this is often called a zoo game. They seem very popular when it comes to the living servers. I don't tend to run very much crossover personally. What about you, Ark?
I have run a couple of crossover games. They are very, very difficult to balance for the obvious reasons of the game lines are not balanced against each other. They're balanced against themselves. And of course, mages cause more problems than others just because of the sheer flexibility of creative thaumaturgy.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. In my past so far, when I've done crossover with mages, it's generally been with demons. So like it's a similar level of bullshittery, even if they're not as flexible.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are, as you say, there are definitely challenges with doing a crossover game because of how their insular design. Theoretically, part of the pitch and a draw of Curseborne is that it's all being designed from one solid standpoint, where everyone is going to be around the same level, able to work with each other without having to worry about conflicting metaphysics of something like World of Darkness, where demon might have a different cosmology to mage.
Of course, Onyx Path has promised that they'll be able to get all this depth and breadth in one book. So this will be, in fact, their biggest game ever.
They really want this to be their new headline from what we've seen. They did a massive advertising campaign compared to what they normally do. Normally they can only do a short build-up, maybe some previews, some discussion on their podcast, maybe an actual play. But this one went with a whole attempted viral marketing campaign, I'd say.
It definitely attempted. It was not terribly well received. People could tell they were teasing something but didn't want to be teased. They wanted information, which was not forthcoming.
It went for about a year, just a bit over a year maybe. So I can definitely see why the drip feed of teasers that they ended up doing would have maybe frustrated some. But yeah, they're putting a lot behind this. They seem very pleased with the amount of attention and reception it got. I will say it surprisingly got a bit less noise in some of the servers I'm on. I don't know whether or not that's a result of the disillusionment, because those servers were talking about the little snippets on YouTube or the BuzzFeed quiz that they ended up putting out to determine what creature type you are. But they didn't really discuss the game once it was in a Kickstarter form. So I don't know whether or not the advertising had worn away interest by that point. But
a year of nothing but 30-second videos of crows it's a lot.
So yeah, that's the basic pitch of the game. Story path, zoo games. So when it comes to like evaluating the game, I like to start with looking at what that core concept is, what it says the core concept is, and how well it fulfills those ideas. Does it lean into those ideas really strongly and give you an experience you can't get anywhere else? Because I've got a lot of RPGs, I need a reason to prioritize one game over another. So I've put up a few of the themes that they say are the key concepts of the game.
Not quite a few more of them than an Onyx Path game usually does. Chronicles of Darkness game, you might expect to see one or two themes and a mood, but Curseborne has 8 core concept listed in their introduction.
They really do have a lot more ideas they're trying to engage with. It's definitely a different approach to what Onyx Path normally does. At least with, as you say, it's very focused and very tight with the World of Darkness, the Chronicles of Darkness games. I feel like their Trinity games are also generally pretty focused on a particular pitch and tone. But I guess you could see this closer to maybe something in Scion level of attempting broadness of concept. One of the very first core concept that they convey is that everyone is cursed and everyone is sort of connected. And everything is connected. So there are all these bad vibes going out around in the world, and people get entangled in them. They get caught up in the web, and that causes bad stuff to happen to them. And it'll be like a chain of events. It's never random, even if it seems random. And this, I believe, led to the tagline of Curseborne is why bad things happen to good people.
I'm still baffled. That's the one they went with. But no, this is a pretty old folkloric idea. The idea that there is no such thing as bad luck or ill fortune, that it's all witchcraft. That people that if something bad happens to you, an illness, a death in the family, a major reversal of fortune, that someone did that to you, that someone hated you enough to make that happen. And that's a very claustrophobic and paranoia-inducing feeling that sort of cosmology provokes. But I think with how they're describing what curses are, and the concept of Curseborne, but they sort of broaden it out a little further than that, and they remove some of the intent and malice and direction from curses.
The next sort of bundle of themes that it has are family drama, and that the game presents itself as being personal level in scale. That a lot of the content that you'll be engaging with, the sort of general framework for what activities are you going to be doing, heavily focused on family dramas, internal problems, and things on a very small scale. You're not taking down megacorps. You are... Now, what was it that you said it yesterday?
Yeah, the bad manager who won't let you take lunch breaks.
Yes. Which is a very different vibe than a lot of the other games that use story path.
Yeah, the default, the lowest that Trinity goes is John Wick.
And then they give John Wick supernatural powers.
Well, they give John Wick supernatural powers, yeah. But that's the lowest level of competency in Trinity that you can expect is John Wick or another pulp action hero. And at the high end of story path, you get demigods and gods.
Some people would argue that the system of story path doesn't prevent these personal level and family drama stories. That just because it can handle things like high action stuff, that doesn't limit it. That you could still do a game focusing on dealing with rent payments, that you're dealing with your managers, you're dealing with whether or not you can work up the courage to kiss a girl, things like that. My personal perspective is that if I'm doing a game focused that's apparently about family drama and personal scale things, I want the system to be facilitating that. I want it to be aiding that in a very strong way. I feel like the main elements in question for Curseborne that engage with that is that when you fulfill obligations to your family, you can grow in power, and that they have a social influence system, which is, I'd say it's fine. It's very much a traditional RPG social system.
It's a robust enough social system. It's as robust as the combat system, and that's more than you can expect from most RPGs.
It's not going to be something on the level of, say, Exalted, though, which I do feel could honestly handle, despite Exalted being a much more grand game. It does seem better designed when it's social system-wise to handle the nuances of family drama and these more personal scale social interactions.
I think I'd agree with that. The intimacies are just more flexible and more colorful. They illustrate character more than bonds and attitudes do.
The bond system did get a bit of a boost in the Ultra system. We'll say that it is still a bit improved from what it was back in the time of Scion.
Absolutely.
It's now default for every player character has some free bonds with their companions, for example. I'd say that the personal level it's a concept I feel like the game doesn't really have much meat for mechanically for supporting. I think the family drama angle, it's something that the game and its text provide a bit more support for.
There's more in the text, absolutely, but the text is at odds with itself as to how much it wants you to do what the authors say is the intended goal of rebelling against your family versus all the hundreds of words they spill about how avoiding your family is not possible. That family is the only constant in life, so you need to get used to it.
Which also ties in with how I mentioned the mechanic of, if you fulfill family obligations, you become more powered, you're more fueled, you've got more ability to actually use your powers. So rebelling against it does mean that you're going to have situations where you are less powerful than the rest of the people who do conform or align with the standard dynamics of that family.
Working with your family is the easiest way to avoid being a monster.
Which is slightly interesting, because you do have that interplay of like, which angle do you want to go? Sort of like how in Beast the Primordial, you have the question of, okay, I can leave myself hungry and do a lot of small feedings. But if I want to actually be sated and have that security and full proper control over my mindset, then you're going to have to be more monstrous or engage with the supernatural community as an enabler. You end up with sort of alternate drives, alternate routes for how different incentives, you could say, to different styles of play that contrast with each other. though it does have a slight friction with a lot of that family drama being they want you to rebel, as you say, but they want you to rebel against the monstrous parts. Well, I don't want to be a monster, and that's why I'm rebelling. Then you're sort of outside the bubble. You don't really get those incentives as much anymore.
It does. There's a definite tension in the mechanics of them not of the game not entirely incentivizing the behavior that it wants from the player.
The next topic is the idea of the urban myths. Curseborne seems to like the idea that it is a game where the rumors are true, the little folk stories that people tell each other about the house down the hill. That those have some weight to it. That there are a lot of little spooky places. I feel like this element of the game is present in regards to two things. It exists in the antagonists, the adversaries. Those they're open to being a very dynamic. You can just throw in a little creature, and that there are places that are spooky called liminalities. Those I feel lean into the urban myths concept that they put forward, but I feel like all the monster types don't really align with that.
The families just sort of exist in their own bubble. They don't really relate to others. Like they're stereotypes. They have stereotypes about like what part of society they fit into, what their clique is, but you don't really see them rooted in a sense of place or community. So it's a bit hard, I think, to get in a sense that these are creatures that exist in a human environment.
Part of it may come from the fact they want you to be able to plug these in any location, but like so that you're not tied to, say, playing in the United States, so you're not tied to playing it in London or something. They don't want to tie it too heavily to a sense of place, aside from urban. But as a result, I feel like that myth angle, there's no real local urban legends are local, and without that sense of place that you're mentioning, that connection to the outside world, I feel like it's hard for me to see it as part of proper what my mental associations are with that vibe of things.
We do have a couple example liminalities that are tourist locations, but the problem with that is that they're tourist locations, but they're trying to play them up as these incredibly dangerous places where people regularly die or go missing. And it's stuff like Trafalgar Square in London or Graceland Cemetery in Chicago. It's like, oh yes, these incredibly scary, intimidating places where people go and don't come back. It's like, yeah, except of course they're still presenting them as tourist destinations.
I will admit I have dipped into that slightly in my own game of Curseborne that I've run. I ended up having the walled city of Kowloon as liminality, which is currently a park and tourist destination, sort of semi-memorial location. We've already touched a bit on the rebellion angle of the game, but we'll just quickly expand on that. So even though the game has said it is personal level and that you're not going to be taking out systemic evils, you're not at that scale yet. You're still a punk. You're a small individual. You're a punk, not a movement, you could say. So even though rebellion is a theme, you're meant to be getting that hope and getting your victories from small steps, making your own life a bit better, making the lives of people you care about a bit better. And they use the term hope punk a few times in the book. Now, what is your view on how they've handled this theme arc?
Oh, I do not feel the hope. I don't. I don't. They want the accursed to be, to some degree, aspirational people. They use a line a couple of different times in the book that Curseborne is a game about playing unapologetic monsters in a world where being monstrous isn't the worst thing to be. But they try really fucking hard. They try real hard to make the monstrousness real bad. And there just isn't really, to me, the sensation of things getting better. In Curseborne, what they seem to want you to feel getting better looks like is you get to live in peace, or you get to kiss your crush, or your job sucks a little less. And that is hope as far as Curseborne is concerned. That you specifically will get to have a slightly better life and fuck everyone else. That's just really bleak to me. That is the most hopeful thing that this game can offer you.
People have put forward the counter argument where, okay, sure, there might not be loads of hope right now, but Curseborne is something they want to be a big game. They want to have a lot of supplements. They want to give higher levels of play. Currently, you can only play the lower levels of Entanglement, which is the game's blood potency, its gnosis, and they think that it is as you increase the tier of your character that you'll probably get more levels of agency, a grander scale of agency. My problem with this argument is that, firstly, theoretically, your themes should be reflected in the core of the game.
You would hope. You would hope.
Not a potential future project, which is very likely. I don't doubt that the books for higher level of the game will come out. That's near certainty. And the other side of things is that the game does a lot of, whenever it mentions those higher levels of power, they're always framed as they are the bad people. They are the man you're rebelling against. They are the entrenched members of your family that you're expected to be rebelling against.
This is especially prevalent with Primal, where their family elders are written as explicitly preying upon and killing the younger members for their own personal gain.
Are the Primals the ones where they give every single of their elders a special fancy name as well?
Yeah, the Primals are the ones where all the family elders get a self-aggrandizing but derogatory nickname.
So we have these elder figures that you're apparently growing into, and that will give you more agency to do your rebellion. But when it comes to the tropes of rebellion media, that is specifically you're becoming the man. That's the narrative arc of that is that you descend into being what you were fighting against, that you become the monsters you were opposed to. It's a very different vibe to, okay, I'm now powerful enough to take down the system.
There's definitely an aspect to Curseborne of it's okay when I do it. And I think that will come up more when we get to the thing proper and the actual lore of the families.
Yeah, that's very fair. So finally, we got the community as key, which is very much what you said earlier about how it's about helping your life. Like the game says that it's about community, but a lot of the game seems also very much focused on just you, just helping, and that seems to be a friction to me. There is some elements of the game that do suggest that you should help your community. The Get of Lyca, the werewolves, they have empower and help my community and defend my community as major elements. I think they might be the only one. And the wardens. Those are the only two sort of ones actually that seem majorly focused on actually aiding and helping their community in any way.
Yeah, and for a major part of the writing focuses on the idea that your community is your crew. So your past contacts, the other players, and that's it. Those are your people, and screw everyone else. And that's a pretty rough tone.
Like, it could be good to have, when it comes to this theme, it could be good to have something that represents the health of the community, or sort of issues in the community that could be
Yeah,
addressed or worked toward.
something a little more like Hardwired Island.
Yes, that would be one game you could look at for that sort of thing. Honestly, you could backwards integrate conspiracies from Deviant, probably as
Yep,
well. Or
absolutely.
you could just another a lower scale, because of course page count is always an issue. You could just have it be one of the main examples for complex actions with their milestones systems types things, and stage actions or something. Like the games like Exalted Essence, a lot of the story path games before Ultra, they have systems for handling projects. And there's not really any reason why they couldn't have done that for these more community-focused things.
Yeah, they for Curseborne they seem to have collapsed it down into the staged actions mechanic, where you have, instead of multi-sequential roles, you have everyone handle a different aspect of the project all at once. And it has to be a different character rolling a different dice pool for each thing. And that works for some ideas, like if you're doing a coordinated attack or something.
I think it works well for a lot of the scenes you are, like, for efficiency wise. It does narrow a large situation into a singular, a collaborative effort, and I do think
Yeah,
it works well for that.
you do an Ocean's 11 heist montage and you move on.
Yes, it's very efficient, which is a benefit, but it does mean that they're lacking this more long term aspect they could plug in for the community. Now, those are what the game says it's about. But if I was when I'm pitching this game to someone, I don't think any of those bar family drama actually really comes up as something I'm telling the baseline person. Like, when I'm telling someone, what is this game about? None of these comments, none of these topics are really rising to the surface when I'm giving someone a quick debrief on it.
Which is a problem, because this is supposed to be an occult investigation game.
Yes. The high concept, the most core theme that pulls everything along, is that it is a zoo game where you're all playing as different monsters doing occult investigations. I'd say that is the real high concept, and it doesn't. That seems to inform the entirety of its design a lot stronger than what it says are the high concepts. It ends up making all the monsters work relatively the same. There are some drawbacks because of that, because of certain monster types have to pay more to get their abilities that you might consider normally baseline. Playing as were creatures is often a bit more disconnected from what people would assume, because the powers you would assume tied to a were creature aren't connected. If you're playing a were spider, you can turn into a wolf just as well as a werewolf can. If you want to grow wings and fly, a werewolf can do that just as well as a werebird. There are different types of vampires, but if you want to be able to see in the dark, that is something that's going to cost you spells to take some of your economy of character options to actually represent. But it comes with the benefit of it's a bit more accessible than 10 plus RPGs if you're trying to do a game where everyone's playing different monsters. The buy-in for that is a lot lower. How do you feel it handles the zoo game where you investigate spooky things high concept? How well does it pull that off?
It pretty much, I would say it's the one thing that the game does consistently. There is, you can play a wide variety of monster, and you investigate spooky things. But what that ends up actually looking like, I don't have a very strong idea of, because the game doesn't have a very strong idea of what this is even supposed to look like. I don't think it really knows what a long-form Curseborne campaign looks like.
That's fair. I feel like the investigation angle has some meat when it comes to like what the game will look like. Tying those investigations to your family does mean that some of the stories may end up being a bit muddled of like, okay, we're investigating this thing for Dave because it ties into Dave's family in particular. It's one of his obligations. It does have. I think my only real problem with the zoo game spooky investigation pitch is that the families themselves are a bit narrow.
They are.
If you just pitch like you can play loads of different types of monsters, there's about a 50-50 chance that the people will come to the table with an idea that isn't represented by the families. Like if you were just going vampire, wizard, werewolf, you're probably fine. If the player comes with that, they're fine. If they come with a cryptid, if they come with some folklore monster, or like they try to play a Slender Man, something from a creepypasta, if they try to lean into the zoo game aspect, there might be some friction. People might be a bit like, oh, so there isn't. I can't play this bull monster because they just haven't come out with a family themed around that. Or, oh, I want to play an owl person, but that family is really heavily associated with a certain concept I'm not really big into. Like someone might want to play a spider person and not vibe with we're a crime gang of conspiracy theorists. I've known at least one person who was like, oh, I can make Spider-Man with this. And it's like, no, you can't.
You really can't, no.
Which I feel is understandable. I don't expect Curseborne to have a web-slinging mechanic. It's not really the vibe. I feel like if you played a broader game or something where it's a very build-it-yourself monsters, a bit more open in what a Curseborne could be. What an accursed could be. I'm frequently confusing the name of the game with the name of the monster.
Yeah.
I feel like if it was just a bit more flexible. Howdy, just a note from while we're doing the editing, we found the recording was a lot bigger than we originally thought we might end up doing. So we're going to be breaking this video into 3 parts, with this being the first part. The next video will end up having the discussion of the game's mechanics and what sort of effects those mechanics have on the gameplay of the system, along with some discussion about how well the game communicates, how well it teaches people about the game itself and its world. Hope people end up enjoying those videos.